Just exposing our failures this morning. All right, let's go around the farm now. And of course, look for the successes, but especially highlight the failures in this special episode. First up, the kitchen garden. It is almost out of control with abundance. So happy about this kitchen garden. But if you remember right, we did make a mistake here. Remember, we did the soil amendments after we had a problem, after these things had been planted, after the mulch was down. Looking back, the right order is having the chickens prep, put down the soil amendments, and go from there. It's not that we didn't know that, it's that we were stricken with the flu and that slowed us down, and I can make up all the excuses in the world, but that's what happened. But the cool thing about this was we fixed it. That was a mistake that we could, I won't say easily fix, but that we could fix, and now it's doing great. This side of the kitchen garden is doing great. We're just gonna be swimming in cucumbers. Teabag's posse is doing awesome. Hey, good morning, Jonah.
My zucchini.
You did? Okay. Yeah, that's huge. Get that zucchini. I can tell you right now, we're gonna have some failures with harvesting these zucchini. Look at this, guys. I'm overwhelmed with produce coming over my sidewalk. The vertical garden is jamming. That's sort of a failure. I think half that stuff in there is not what I planted, but we're going with it. We are getting overrun with morning glory, so let's get that off. Okay, got the morning glory off. I better water that or that's gonna be a big failure. Mind you, I didn't plant this pumpkin here, and it's growing down this wall, which is absolutely amazing, and look at that fruit. Isn't that cool? So I'll go with that failure. Inside the greenhouse is huge abundance, guys. Remember these seeds we planted a couple weeks ago? This is the fall crop right here. This will be ready in 2 weeks to go where the chickens are right now. And these are seed that we planted just recently, and they'll be ready to go out in about 4 weeks. Guys, you remember Jonah's peach that he planted in there? Well, that hasn't come up, but Comfrey has. We'll take it. Down near the compost pile, we have planted peppers. Here, real quick, show you them. Nothing. And I think I saw a video the other night. Okay, I think I saw on Everyday Edwards, their peppers were jamming. And I thought, I got a tiny bit jealous. But don't worry about that, because sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. I don't think I've ever been a season where everything worked. So happy about this watermelon though. We are overrun in squash and cucumbers and pumpkins. So I'm happy to see a couple of our watermelons came up.
Yeah, and those are the watermelons I saved last year when we went somewhere and got huge watermelons like this long and like that fat.
That's right. You know, that brings up a good example. We got these awesome watermelons. It's co-op. This is huge. And the boys wanted to save the seeds. I thought, yeah, right, that'll work. But I thought, okay, yeah, let's do it. We asked Mr. Google Pants, how do you save seeds? We did it, and that had a high chance of failure in my mind. But it's working, and what would it have lost me if it didn't work? So I'm glad we did it.
I can't wait for these huge long watermelons and that big fat.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, down here in this crop garden, pretty happy about it, because it had a lot of mulch. This stuff has not been suppressed by weeds. There's some weeds growing in there, but I think this has got enough head start. And we already seen a bunch of fruit. Look at that. That's one of those huge giant max pumpkins. So that's gonna be like as big as Jonah, at least in weight. I think this row of sunflowers is a good lesson in failure. It's not really failing, but maybe some of these are not doing nearly as good as those. Those are like 10 feet tall. Well, we can make observations from failures and learn from it. Like probably since this is on a slope, that's where all the nutrients went. Most of the compost, most of the manure for the chickens went downhill. So we can learn a lot from that lesson, and maybe this was robbed of more nutrients.
Some of them up there are actually starting to bloom.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So they're soon gonna be ready.
Okay, we're standing in my biggest failure of the season, yes! Now, I'm not too upset about it because this was an experiment. And remember, on a permaculture farm, there's redundancy. So we planted this garden by seed after the chickens left. But that didn't give the plants enough head start. Look at these pathetic cabbages. We might get a few cabbages out of it, right? The weeds have overrun. We did get potatoes. Guys, we did get a big batch of potatoes, so not too much to complain about. But for the most part, this is a big patch of weeds. And we spent some time in here, but I'm not too upset about it because the chickens can eat it. It's a wonderful experiment. It compares it to the situation where we started plants and transplanted grown plants after the chickens that did much better. Guys, this is home of the garden jungle. Look, the kids have had a blast going in here and finding cucumbers. We have been able to get cucumbers out of it. We're gonna get tomatoes. We're gonna get all kinds of squash and pumpkins. It's still gonna be okay. I know we're gonna get some huge pumpkins. There you go. Massive beach ball pumpkin. And the soldier fly bin, guys, they haven't harvested a single soldier fly. Got nothing but carrion beetles. But I did learn all about carrion beetles because of it. Now, my signature crop garden system. It's doing great. We even experimented here and both experiments went well. We did this row without cardboard, transplanting plants. They're doing great. We did this row with cardboard and mulch. It's doing great. Maybe a hair better. Here, my friend, this is actually buckwheat grown in between the rows. Maybe I could have started that a little bit later because it's so tall, but things don't seem to be too affected by it. And look, have you ever seen squash so tall? Do you see Jonah there? That squash is almost as tall as he is.
And it's taller than Gideon.
Okay, we're here at the Mama Chick and Teabag's chicks. I want you guys to see how they're doing. They're actually doing wonderful. They're protected by this poultry pen, sides and tops. Doing great. Now look, here is a mistake. I should have moved them a week ago. I don't know what happened. I just didn't get around to it. But if you look, I could turn that problem into a solution, and because she's worked it down so much, don't you see? I could plant a garden here. Sure, because there's a lot of sod still left, I might have to put some weed barriers, some cardboard around individual plants, but I could totally go for it there. All right, guys, I want you to observe this. This is where Jonah, yes you, left a huge cardboard for here too long. But once he moved it up, I noticed all the vegetation was gone. It's quickly come back, but these seeds came back ahead of the vegetation. This is some sort of squash or pumpkin.
I didn't put any seeds yet.
I know, we didn't even put any seeds here, but that's what came up. You see, that mistake of leaving the cardboard out taught us a valuable lesson. We could theoretically leave out some cardboard, let the vegetation get gone below it, come back, maybe not plan on there being seeds there, that might have been kind of lucky, but planting our own seeds, or even better, our own transplants. Okay, Donald Trump posse, how you guys doing? The little chicks are doing great. Donald's keeping them well protected. See that mulch we threw in there yesterday with Drew? The chickens have already spread that out significantly. You see that, guys? And to encourage them, I actually fed them on that today to encourage them to scratch. Good job, guys. Guys, remember those potatoes? Well, it was a mistake leaving those potatoes so long, and we didn't eat them in time. They were probably quarter rotten, but they were growing sprouts, and we planted them out here on these old leaves, and they're doing good. I mean, they're ready. I'm pretty sure they're ready. So we need to remember next week to come out and get these guys. So we were bold enough to take some chance with sweet potatoes that did the same thing, and at least one is working. There's one down here, it's kind of yellow, it might not make it. There's one up there that's getting eaten a little bit, but that was fun. Oh yeah, look, I'd say the potatoes are ready, wouldn't you? Yum. Hey Jonah, can you share about maybe your biggest failure?
I tried to put on a wing, and when Mama made it look so easy when we first got the drone,
yeah,
it wasn't. She had to fix it.
Okay,
so put the wing on, and I put the wrong wing set on.
Oh, okay.
See,
what did you learn from that failure?
To make sure to look at the wings and make sure it has a parent to do it.
I'm out at the turkeys. I'm going to show you the saddest failure of the day. You see? Do you see what's happened here? That's a turkey leg. That's feathers. Last night when I went to put these guys up, I discovered that. And something got the turkey during the day, probably a hawk from above. I didn't think a hawk would get them at this age. I thought they were big enough. Apparently not. It's not really a mistake. I couldn't really have helped that. But what I'm gonna do for the next couple of days is keep them in here, let them grow a little bit bigger, and show that hawk there's no free lunch around here. So on the farm with animals or vegetables or fruit or whatever, you've got to plan on failure. Your fault, somebody else's fault, a predator, anything like that. you know, I wanted at least 2 turkeys. One for Christmas, one for Thanksgiving. So I got a dozen turkeys. And they ended up giving us 14. I was happy about that. And they said half of them would die before they even got to this age. But we got them here. And still, I won't be surprised if we lose more.
Only 2.
Yeah, we've lost 2 so far.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to lose anymore. I'm going to try my best to not. But that's just part of it. Just look back on what's happened with us with animals. The snake ate that chicken alive. That video, What in the World Got My Chicken, where we believe a snake got a full-grown bird. Several chicks died. Many chicks didn't even hatch. So failures are a big part of the homestead experience, whether you like it or not. Well, they're a big part of life, whether you like it or not. So it's sort of embrace them, push forward, go for it, understand there's gonna be failures, but just do your best. Just get up, get back up, and keep going. I'd say this hose might classify as a failure. It's a big old mess, but I figured out some of our deal with the chillers and with us adults. We are creators. We're constantly creating content, whether it's be video or writing or experimenting on the farm. And I think that creators have a really hard time in that transition from one creation to the next. We just get so excited that we just move on and we leave the cup out. Or we let the squash grow over the entire sidewalk. Maybe that's an excuse. Maybe it's a reality. Hope you enjoyed that. Many people have said they learn from our failures. I finally learned to embrace them, teach others through my failures. So I hope you are encouraged by this to go out there and fail. Because if you're failing, that means you're trying. You're trying to do something probably wonderful. And chances are you're gonna find that success eventually if you keep on trying. So you saw my failures and you heard Jonah's. So what are everybody else's failures? Hey honey, you're up. What is something you failed at?
Well, when I did my zucchini noodles, I didn't drain them enough, so I failed at that, but it still was tasty.
You know what I like about that failure of yours? You didn't really want to publish that. It was stressful. It wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But then when you did, you addressed it and you just said, hey look, there was too much moisture in it. This is what I would do next time. I think that's perfect. I think people relate to that.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
Good job failing. High five. Good morning, Mr. Brown. How are you? You want to go outside with the shoes on? Hey, what have you failed at? Maybe walking around in big boots? Let me tell you something about Mr. Brown. He fails a lot.
Yeah.
He literally falls. Look at these knees. You see that scab? That's proof. But if Mr. Brown didn't get up and walk, despite the fact that he's probably going to fall every time, he would never really learn how to do it. Good job, Mr. Brown. Way to fail. Hey, Josiah. Hey, what have you failed at? Remember when you tried to fly the drone and you didn't really like it and you thought it was maybe too hard? Would that be right to say maybe the drone didn't work out like you'd hoped? Yeah. Hey, good morning to you, Miss Wild Thing. Hey, what have you failed at?
Nothing.
Nothing? Are you perfect? Aw. You know, Lily's a lot like Mr. Brown. She's only 4. She's still learning. She's trying a lot of things and she's failing a lot. But she's also succeeding. She's obviously got a lot of self-confidence.